Hello, everyone. We're back. Mary Lou's back. I'm so excited. I feel like I haven't seen you in ages, Mary Lou.
I know, it has been a while. I got so sick last week. So,
are you feeling all better?
I'm feeling mostly better. I have a little lingering cough, but the upside has been I've just been mostly just fasting on tea and broth since I got sick. Since I just couldn't do anything else without feeling I was going to die of coughing. So my joints feel great. I have tons of energy. I think it was the silver lining. I feel fantastic.
You went on a little cleanse.
I did. I had an illness cleanse.
I go on cleanses when I run out of groceries and I'm too lazy, because then I'm forced to subsist on bone broth and lemon water.
Oh, man. That. You're in that town with all that delicious food, though.
I know, but sometimes I get lazy, and the produce in the butcher store are usually closed by 5, and sometimes I don't make anyway. I should not make any excuses, but it's not that bad, because I've been on this bone broth kick and been making my homemade bone broth, and it's delicious. So, nice. Anyway, welcome everyone. This is Where Are All the Women? We're all here. We're back. Hooray. And I want to mention before we get into anything that if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. My YouTube account is sort of demonetized at the moment for reasons that I can't explain at the moment, but hopefully I'll be able to explain soon or next week. So if you do want to support me in my work, I would really appreciate that. You can go over to Substack at meganmurphy.ca and become a paid subscriber, or you can become a patron. And those links are down below on YouTube. Mary Lou is also on Substack. You should subscribe to her Substack. It's great. And you're just at Mary Lou Singleton on Substack, yes?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, so I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, but I'm trying to organize my thoughts. I'm an official candidate in the 2025 election.
Wow.
That was a slog, and we were real close. It's a real tight race over here. Because we had to collect all those signatures, and that was a challenge, and we did it barely.
So what does the campaign look like?
I don't know. Again, there's some things that some things that are uncertain at the moment. I had planned to fly back to Vancouver on Sunday to do some events and to campaign, and I'm not sure if I can go to Canada anymore or ever again. So,
oh wow,
I don't know, but I'm on the ballot, so people can vote for me, and I'm gonna do my best to campaign from wherever I have to be. Lord, it feels weird to say what I really think about Canada because I'm running in the Canadian election, but I'll just say that I'm completely disappointed in Canada. I think that is the kindest way that I can put it. I think I just am blown away at how little people in Canada understand what's going on in Canada, and they're all obsessed with America. They're obsessed with these things that don't impact them, and they're not paying attention to the things that do and are and will impact them a lot in a really, really bad way.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing to watch Canadians shouting about American fascism in a country where they don't have internet freedom. They don't have freedom of speech. The organizers of the trucker protest were just found guilty of criminal mischief and still are demonetized. I think that the Canadian government hasn't given the truckers back their money. On and on. The level of totalitarianism in Canada is terrifying. Amy Ham just was, Amy Ham's case, it's so much more frightening to me than what's happening in America.
I know, and people just they think that something terrifying is happening in America, and they think something terrifying is happening in America to them. And like nothing, like, why are you protesting Elon Musk? Like, what are you doing? You live in Canada and you're protesting Tesla? Are you crazy? Like, what do you even think? And I mean, you sort of know what they think because I've seen these video clips of people interviewing some of these people at these Tesla protests and asking them, you know, what are you protesting? You know, what's Elon doing that's so bad? And they're like, oh, well, we're protesting fascism and we're protesting authoritarianism. And I don't like dictators. And it's like, okay, America doesn't have Donald Trump was elected.
Right.
Donald Trump won the Democratic election.
Right.
You don't like democracy? Okay. Say that.
Apparently they like a shadowy, hidden cabal that was pulling the puppet strings on the corpse of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
That was fine.
Yeah.
Like, who was running this country for the last 4 years? Clearly not Joe Biden.
Not somebody that you voted for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So Tamara, I always say her name wrong. I feel awful. I think it's Tamara Lich is how you say her name. I keep saying Tamara Lich, but that's wrong. Tamara Lich, I think. And Chris Barber, who were some of the Convoy organizers in 2022, and they've been stuck in court battling the Canadian government, who's essentially just been torturing them all this time for 2 years or whatever it is, trying to throw all these charges at them. None of them stuck because they didn't do anything wrong. The trucker protest was a legal protest. And the only thing they could manage to drum up to actually charge them with was, as you said earlier, mischief, which is based on, according to the judge, that Tamara and Chris trying to encourage people to be involved in or stay at the protest, which is what anybody organizing a protest would do. Come to my protest. Right. That's a mischief? Like, it's crazy.
So is mischief the Canadian version of what the Brits call hooliganism?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know what hooliganism means.
Well, that's what they charge, soccer rioters with, or football rioters, they call them there. We don't have these criminal terms in the United States. I don't think we have criminal mischief in the United States. Maybe I'm wrong.
I mean, I don't know if it's, it was just reported they were found guilty of mischief.
It's like what you would charge.
It doesn't even say criminal mischief. It doesn't say, but it's not, I just don't even understand.
Mischief is something you would charge elves with.
Yeah.
What does it mean? Silly. What does it mean? Oh, the mischief.
So they were also trying to charge them with intimidation, which they couldn't. They were found not guilty of intimidation because intimidation carries a sense of menace or violence.
Yeah.
And the judge determined that the evidence does not support that charge because Lich and Barber were repeatedly called for protesters to remain peaceful. And I'm trying to read more about what mischief means. Another charge of counseling others to commit mischief was stayed because it was no longer necessary due to the mischief conviction. I don't know. I just think the government invented something to charge them with. I think the whole thing is obvious bullshit. They didn't do anything wrong. The protest was legal. It's a harassment. It's like it's just torturing them through the process. They're just being punished for being political dissidents, for going.
Have they been in jail this whole time, or have they been out on?
Not the whole time, but Tamara was in jail.
She was in jail for quite some time.
Yeah, I don't think they are right now, but yeah.
And she's a First Nations woman, right? She has First Nations heritage.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, that's what my understanding is. Like she's usually the kind of woman they like to politically put on a pedestal in the left based on her identity, but they didn't like it that she was trying to liberate Canada from the COVID totalitarianism.
Yeah. Oh, they were acquitted of obstructing justice, so they couldn't charge them with that either. They just had no evidence at all to substantiate any of the charges, really.
Wow.
It's just disgusting. Like, it's, yeah, Canada has become a totalitarian country, and Canadians are protesting another country that is not totalitarian, and ignoring what's happening here because they don't agree with these people's politics. I think that so many Canadians don't support democracy and don't even know what democracy is. I mean, the government freaking froze people's bank accounts over politics.
Right.
A lot of them, people who donated, people who were just associated with convoy protesters, like the kids or partners of convoy protesters or organizers, never mind the organizers themselves and the protesters themselves and these truckers who were off work already, like sacrificing a lot to protest the mandates.
I love that trucker protest. I remember being at my lowest point in my life and seeing what the trucker convoy was doing. And I watched this. It's almost embarrassing how, I don't know what the right word is, not quite maudlin, that like how crazy this video I watched that was a montage of the truckers going across the country and the hundreds, thousands of people with their signs out welcoming them across the freeways. And it was to the tune of Quiet Riot, We're Not Going to Take It. And I just was there with my tears running down my face, thinking people are waking up. People are going to stop this madness, the shutdown of society, the fear mongering. I loved the trucker protest, and it really did free us. It freed North America from the COVID madness. It really was what broke through what seemed unending torture we were enduring.
It was, things were not getting better, things were getting worse. People like to downplay that also, like that when I say that the truckers saved us, they freed Canada and America from these mandates and allowed us to finally escape the lockdowns in those countries. And people will be like, oh, well, they were going to end anyways, but they weren't ending. They were ongoing, and things were getting worse, and there was no end in sight. Justin Trudeau had no intention of ending the lockdowns and the mandates.
And this is my issue with the people protesting Trump right now is I watch these protests and I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I believe nearly everyone attending those protests would have me back in a forced mask in a second, lock me in my house, try to take away my livelihood if I complained about it, force vaccinate me at gunpoint if they had their way, take people's kids away if they're not vaccinating. These people collaborated with, encouraged, became foot soldiers of true totalitarianism, and now they're out with signs about how they don't like fascism. And if things like the trucker protests hadn't happened, we would have never gotten out of that. Like it needed to break through some kind of popular revolt because there was no off-ramp. COVID is still here. The COVID circulating now is just as deadly as it was in 2022 after Omicron. There was no off-ramp that the government was ever going to give us.
Of course not. Why would they? How does it benefit them to give us an off-ramp?
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I think Poilievre's going to win this election, but
I hope you're right.
But now I'm worried that won't even make that much of a difference. Like, I hope I'm being overly cynical, but I think it'll be better for the economy if Poilievre wins, for sure. I think it would be much worse, much, much worse if the Liberals win. Mark Carney, as you know, is a globalist and a banker, and he's got the exact same MO as Trudeau did. He's just got a different skin suit on, and a different vibe. He's more of a serious guy, but he has no idea what he's talking about. I mean, his talks and his interviews are so embarrassing because he can't keep any details or names or dates or information straight. Like he's not fit for this role at all. And I think the media is bolstering him a lot and trying to make it seem like he's a lot more popular than he actually is, for sure. Which is also embarrassing. Like, he'll do rallies and people will be like, oh, they've got an AI crowd in there. They try to make the crowds look bigger than they are. And I think Poilievre's rallies are big and doing quite well. I think he's still popular, but he's been so disappointing to me on the tariffs, which are, the tariffs thing is just blowing my mind at how stupid it is. I saw that Canadians had put these billboards up in the US. Did you see this?
Yes.
I was like, you guys are so condescending and so embarrassing, because you think that you know what you're talking about and you're explaining to America what tariffs are, because Americans are so dumb and you don't understand what's going on. They put up all these billboards for people watching. They put up all these billboards in the US saying tariffs are a tax.
Tariffs are a tax. But don't you have tariffs on us? I think that most of these countries Trump is putting tariffs on already have just as high tariffs on our products when they come in.
Everyone has tariffs on other countries.
Yeah.
All the countries have tariffs. All the other countries.
Right.
That's why China's economy is so good, because they have really, really high tariffs.
Really high tariffs, exactly.
And I don't recall any Canadian ever protesting that.
No, it's just this.
Like, and it's like, do you think this is going to win you any favor by condescending to Americans in this way? I mean, I don't know that Canadians care about that, because Canadians are these specific kind of Canadians. I'm sorry, I shouldn't say all Canadians. These specific kind of like progressive, overeducated CBC Canadians who think they know everything about everything and actually know nothing and go around condescending to everyone different than them. But yeah, I guess their heads are so far up their asses, they could care less if Americans like them or not. They just think they're doing them a favor by educating them about tariffs.
Tariffs are a tax. Speech is violence.
Yeah. And it's like, Trump is doing this for the American economy. He's not doing it to punish Canada, I don't think. I think he's just doing it because it's good for the American economy and he wants a new free trade deal.
We'll see if it works. That a bunch of countries back down and are negotiating now. The stock market's rallying again. There's a lot hinging on it, but I'm interested to see if it works and it gets our economy moving better. Because if it doesn't, Trump will, he'll lose Congress in 2 years, and then the Democrats will win again in 4. It's always about the economy,
right?
But yeah, I think it's interesting to watch this strongman leader actually go for it in these ways. I'm finding it fascinating. It's a fascinating time in history.
Yeah, for sure. Somebody who won't back down and is quite certain of what he's doing, regardless of what other people think about it. That's sort of, yeah.
Right.
I've meant to mention earlier, I forgot to, that if people want to donate to my campaign, because people have been asking, I put the link down below in the show notes for people watching on YouTube. But it is, I'll put it in the chat right now. Also, you can just go to my page on the People's Party of Canada.ca website and click the donate button, and that would be helpful, because we don't have much time in the campaign, but campaigns can be quite expensive, like just signage and flyers and all that kind of thing. Never mind events, if we can manage to do that as well.
Do you have a campaign manager? Do you have a team?
I've got some volunteers helping me. Yeah.
Good.
I don't have anything. I can't do all that much because I don't have that much money. So it's not like I can hire people or anything, but I definitely have some volunteers helping, thank God. Because this has been a lot of work, and I wasn't even in Vancouver, so I needed a lot of help with the signatures and things like that. Did you watch the John Oliver video about trans sports?
Sadly, yes. I'm still angry about it.
I couldn't believe it. He's disgusting.
He's really disgusting.
I couldn't have imagined how awful it would be.
These people really hate women. They really do not do not view women as a distinct human population with our, with our own issues. His allegiance to males who say they're female was so over the top. Yeah. What did you think? Did you find it enraging?
I think that he made a 45-minute long video arguing against sex segregated sports. He doesn't realize that he's doing that, but he spent so long basically trying to downplay the fact that males have an advantage over females in sport. He brought up all these statistics, and then, he said like, oh, well, it's not like every man has an advantage over there might be some minor advantages in some sports, but it depends on the sport. And then went to the argument that most people go to when they're trying to defend men competing against women in sport, which is, but there's so few trans athletes, i.e. men in women's sports, because we're not talking about women in men's sports. There's so few of them that, we can't even really collect any data or statistics to see if they actually do have an advantage. It's all such disgusting manipulation because they pretend that we're talking about a different kind of human as opposed to talking about males who are taking hormones.
Yeah, males on hormones, exactly. And some not even on hormones, because really it's like Kara says over and over again, it's a meaningless category legally. Anyone could declare themselves trans they don't, there's no not whether they're on hormones and have surgery or not, I don't care. Like, women are not castrated men on estrogen. He's a piece of work. My disdain for him is boundless right now. And the sad thing is, he's such a strong propagandist. Like, he and Amy Goodman and these propagandists that infiltrate the minds of their beloved viewers that actually then start parroting this stuff. Like, I had to deal with my landlord parroting this to me of, well, let me tell you why there's no problem with trans people in women's sports. And he used that same argument of men come in all shapes and sizes, and that he can't play professional basketball because he's not tall enough, and as much as he would have loved to, that's just nature. So, some trans women are just bigger and stronger than women who aren't trans, and women just have to deal with it. And they're believing this. They believe the propaganda that's been being injected into their minds.
Yeah, he's giving them all talking points.
Right.
And he shows this clip of Riley Gaines, and they insert this canned laughter over the clip to pretend that he has an audience who's laughing at her. He laughs at her, and I was just like, what is wrong with you? Yeah, I actually have it here. I can play it for you guys. Give me half a second. I'll pull it up here. It's really quite gross, I thought. And I'll see if I can share my screen and play this. Okay, I think I got it here. Let me try to. I did this before, and now am I gonna remember how to do it? Share screen.
Who catapult.
So infuriating.
He's like, the insertion of the canned laughter over her talking, and then her clip ends and he starts laughing, is so gross. And he also, of course, fails to mention that one of her most impactful complaints about this whole thing was not just that she had to compete against this man, but that all these girls had to change in front of him in the change room.
Right. And she has a legitimate grievance there that they wanted to turn it into like he's a more important woman than she is, that the most important women are the women who are men, so he has to be the one who is holding this up. And it's so demoralizing to women, this issue. And for some reason I thought it'd be over after the Trump executive order. I cannot believe liberals are doubling down on this. And this is most women find this enraging, and 80% of Americans disagree with males and female sports. 80%. I can't think of another issue that 80% of Americans agree on. And this is it just blows my mind that they're doubling down on this loser issue.
I know, I thought it would be over too, and I just couldn't. I can't believe that people are still making these arguments. It's amazing to me. And I mean, he obviously doesn't care about female athletes and can't even bring himself to feel any empathy or to put himself in the shoes of any of these women. One of his arguments that I found most ridiculous and appalling is that he started near the end of the video, he starts to try to, use female athletes in defense of male athletes competing in female athletes. Like he shows clips of a few female athletes saying, "Oh, I don't care. Like, why should I care? So I lose a race to these trans women. We're all having a fun time. Why would I want to deprive somebody of an opportunity?" And he's like, "See, she doesn't even care. Look, she's fine with it. She's smiling. She likes it." Like, what does this argument sound like to you?
It. Look at the Playboy bunnies. They like it.
That woman said she liked being choked in the bedroom. She likes it when I call her a bitch and a whore and slap her around. She's smiling. Look, she likes it.
Yeah. Ayla likes the gangbangs.
So women like it. Yeah.
Women like it.
Yeah.
But like Jonah Wheeler says, one person cannot consent for another person. When he said something along the lines of, I don't enjoy watching women be hurt. And then he spun that into, but who's being hurt here? The feelings of these men. And I can't, like, he's like, but the true victims here are the poor trans, girls and women.
Yeah.
But
and
women are actually being physically injured. And he starts saying that, like, I don't enjoy watching women be physically injured, and then spins it into, I can't stand to see the feelings of the poor trans women be harmed.
Well, and it doesn't matter if women are okay with it. That's not the point. It's the law. It's the rule. It's reality. Right. Again, either we have sex segregated sports or we don't.
No, we don't.
We're supposed to have sex. Just say that then. Say everybody, it's a free for all. Everybody competes against each other. But like, don't, whether or not it's not, oh, these women say it's fine, so it's fine. It's not fine.
No,
he's a man. Fine. This sport's for women. I don't really care what anybody thinks or says about it, to be honest. I mean, I do. Like, I care that women are losing out. I don't mean I don't care about female athletes. I do. But it doesn't, if you say you're okay with it, it doesn't make any difference at all to reality and the truth and the law and the reasons that sex segregated sports exist in the first place. It's not to placate feelings.
No.
It's about fairness.
No. Well, in the same way that bathrooms are segregated by sex because of our bodies are different and our vulnerabilities are different. Like, bathrooms are not gender confirmation stations. Women's sports don't exist to affirm the deluded belief systems of these boys and men who think they're female.
Yeah. He also, at the end, he says, the ones who really lose out are these trans kids who don't get to play. Which again, that's the installation. Nobody's preventing anybody from playing sports. Nobody's preventing kids who identify as transgender from competing. They're preventing males from competing against females.
Right, exactly. And how do they,
trans kids,
if they really believe this idiotic lie that there's no science showing that males have any statistical advantage over females in sports, why aren't we seeing this influx of trans men into football and basketball, into men's sports. You know, why aren't women suddenly showing up and winning those?
Yeah.
They know why. It's that they hate women, that this, you know, they want to participate in this issue, which is not only like literally destroying our sports, destroying our spaces, having a real physical impact on our lives. This issue is psychological warfare against women and against everyone paying attention. You know, this is a maddening issue that drives thinking people insane to have to watch the culture march forward with this craziness.
Yeah, I mean, I've always said that it's mass gaslighting. And, you know, this is the harms of 1984 weren't just about direct authoritarianism, but it's also the mind fuckery. I mean, that was kind of the whole point of changing the truth and changing the narratives constantly and forcing people to go along with it. Oh, now we're no longer at war with Eurasia. You know, like up is down, down is up. 2 + 2 = 5, and you're like, okay, like it's emotional or psychological abuse.
It is.
Yeah,
it is abuse, and it is it's a time-honored tactic of people who want to control the population, of totalitarians. There's that quote from the French Revolution, Voltaire: "Those who can make you believe absurdities can make you commit atrocities." And I think of that all the time with this issue of these. This is why I cannot trust the left. I used to feel like I couldn't trust the right because of their religious fundamentalism and zealotry, which I found similarly disconcerting. Like, these people want to force everybody to believe their unprovable thing. At this point, I'll take that madness. I'm not welcoming that, but that, like, I'd way rather my kids being taught in school that God created the earth in 7 days and Jesus rode a dinosaur to church, because I mean, that I can correct that at home, where if my kids come home from school and are told, they have to agree that Johnny is now Susie, or Susie's going to kill herself, that's almost impossible to undo in a child's mind. This level of control is beyond anything we've ever experienced.
When you can't undo a boy or a man taking his dick out in the girls' change room, you're not there.
No,
they're at the pool or they're at school.
No, I can't undo that. I can't undo the fact that they're all vulnerable to assault in a way that they weren't before, because any boy can put on a skirt and go into the women's bathroom. And we all know, like, the bathroom is a refuge from creepy men, and that other girls in there will sometimes help you out if you need a group to walk out with, that good moral people wouldn't let a male follow you in there. And now everyone's on the side of the creep.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that trans activists go to, of course, this, like, well, what are you going to do? Genital checks at the door? You're going to check everyone's genitals? And it's like, well, we didn't used to have to do that, because the social norm was that a man who tries to go into the woman's or the girl's change room or washroom is a creep and a predator. And usually a good man around will beat up the guy, or a mother will scream at him. But now there's no recourse, because the mother who complains is treated like she's the criminal.
And the man who beats him up is guilty of a hate crime and will probably go to jail. Totally. And it's so disgusting. And this issue, it blows my mind over and over and over again that the leftists have fallen for this and that they will defend it. Like, this is their fundamentalist religion. Like, they will defend it to their last breath. And I don't know if the cognitive dissonance is so great. Like, if they can't allow themselves to untease this, though plenty of TRAs, like plenty of trans activists, have reached peak trans and turned around. We meet those women.
Yeah.
Isabella was one. Right.
Yeah, there's a lot. K-Yang.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of people who've changed their minds and who've, people are always telling their what is it? Their peak
Yeah.
peak turf moment or whatever.
Yeah,
What
peak
is it
trans,
called?
sorry. When you
The
hit peak
trans.
trans, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It just seems to be getting worse though. Like I said, I really thought the executive order would turn it around, but I think that liberals are refusing, like the blue states are refusing to play. They're leaving it in the courts. They're not complying with the executive order.
Yeah.
We still have boys competing in girls sports all over this country.
Yeah. Pretty weird duck in the comments said in reference to the genital check story. Men of that sort wish their genitals were getting checked before entering the women's restroom, which is of course true.
Yeah.
These men are just revealing their fantasies, right?
Oh yeah.
They're perverts and fetishists and yeah. And that's they want to be looked at. That's why they're doing this.
Well, and that I think
Exhibitionists.
Yeah, they are exhibitionists and they are perverts and they're forcing us to participate in their fetish. And that's the piece the left refuses to look at as well. They think they're all like the equivalent of the what my generation would have been called the little flamer who grows up to be used to grow up to be a gay guy.
A star of the musical theater.
Yeah, exactly. And now is getting castrated and turned into a simulation of the opposite sex and having their future sexuality robbed from them. They think they're all that kid, that they're all this like poor, confused, sad, effeminate boy that turned into this man, when the majority of the adults are autogynephiles. And why won't they address that? They won't. They're gonna eventually spin it as like a beautiful thing that we all have to be having parades about up front. Like they probably, once consciousness expands enough that people finally hear what the women like Genevieve are saying, it'll get flipped to, oh, we never said it wasn't autogynephilia. Now we all have to celebrate autogynephilia. There's a new flag flying, and it's not just a creepy vibe at the drag queen story hour. We're actually going to admit that we're forcing children to participate in our fetish, and you're going to like it.
It's that it's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. That turns into, no, it is happening, but it's good.
It's a great thing. No one's castrating kids. No one's doing pediatric mastectomies. No one's doing that. That's just a Matt Walsh talking point. No, we can't outlaw pediatric mastectomies. They're life-saving. They're important medicine.
Yeah.
It wasn't happening last week. Now it has to be defended.
Yeah. Did you watch, I know I realized after, because I texted you about this, because I watched, as I'm sure many people watching did, the interview that Rogan did with Suzanne Humphreys. And I realized that I think you recommended her book to me a while ago. Does that sound right? Dissolving Illusions?
Yeah, I don't think I recommended it. It's not one of my favorite.
Then okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just, because I went to look it up after I listened to the podcast, and it was already in my like Amazon wish list. And I was like, oh, I bet Mary Lou told me about it, and she probably thinks I'm stupid because I was like, hey, have you heard of this lady?
No, a lot of people have recommended that book to me. And actually, one of my, somebody in my community who's a pharmacist actually brought it to me, who really likes that book. I don't find it the most compelling argument for questioning vaccines, but I'm so glad she was on there. And I know what she says resonates with a ton of people as well. And that's a huge game changer that he had her on there.
It just blew my mind. Mm-hmm. We've been bamboozled so badly over so many vaccines.
Right.
And that we haven't been allowed, nobody's allowed to talk about it. And anybody who tries is treated as an insane person and like laughed out of society.
Right. No, it is complete bamboozlement. But so much of our medical rituals are, and always have been. Like, we can look at history and laugh at like those crazy leech people, like, oh my gosh, they were so stupid, sticking leeches on each other and thinking that was helping. And then the people feeding each other mercury and going to the doctor and for bloodletting. Like, we can see that this is all crazy. Oh, but now we're not doing anything crazy. Unlike every group of people in human history,
We're not cutting off the genitals of minors. Like,
right.
we're not castrating boys. That would be crazy. What a crazy thing to do.
We're not like those insane Romans. We're not like the Italians who wanted the boys with the nice high voices to retain those through adulthood. Those people were nuts. They were crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I never really thought about vaccines until the COVID thing. And then, now I'm questioning everything. And then, after I have to read her book, but after listening to that interview, first of all, it made me glad that I was born in 1979 and we didn't have the vaccine schedule that we have now. Babies are getting COVID shots still. That's still like part of the vaccine schedule. Is that right?
Yes, that and the CDC vaccine schedule says babies should get a COVID shot starting at 6 months, every 6 months.
What?
And a flu shot starting at 6 months, every 6 months, even though last week the Cleveland Clinic published a study showing that this year's flu shot not only did not prevent the flu, it made you 27% more likely to get the flu. The people who got the flu shot were 27% more likely to get the flu than the people who did not get the flu shot.
That's so crazy.
But there it is on the CDC schedule for all Americans starting at 6 months to get every 6 months. And people do it. People do it because they don't want to be a Trumper. Like, you can't question any of it. Only bad people.
Yeah, they'd rather have a sick baby than have to be like the MAGAs.
Right. And then people have bought this insanity that we saw through COVID where every day people come to me like, oh, I had the flu so bad, but it wasn't as bad as it would have been if I hadn't got that flu shot. Like,
that's what they say about the COVID vax too, right?
When did this start? Because my understanding as a child and through all the medical training that I've done was always vaccines prevent the disease, not that you get a less severe form of it. Like
we're trying to eradicate polio or the measles. Like, that's supposed to be the point, I thought.
No, it wasn't like, oh, now everyone will just get a mild case of polio. Or,
they'll just get a little bit of polio.
No, nobody believed that about vaccines, but when the vaccines don't work, that's the propaganda that comes in of, oh, it would have been so much worse if you hadn't had it, which is no different than think how much worse it would be if you hadn't prayed, if you hadn't said that rosary, things would have been a lot worse. You would have died in that car accident.
Would have died faster or maybe less fast. The death would have been worse.
Right. The difference is prayer doesn't have any negative side effects.
Right.
It cannot give you Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Prayer doesn't make you sick.
Yeah, exactly. Prayer isn't going to give you, immune thrombocytopenia. All these things that are legitimate documented side effects of many vaccines that, we know can happen if we give this to somebody.
Yeah. I think it is documented now that the COVID vaccine hurt people's immune systems, right? And people not only are there's flies in my house. Sorry.
Oh no.
I left my door open and there's these lights on, so now they're coming in. The most people that I know who got a bunch of COVID shots, got all the boosters, are getting really, really sick all the time. When they do get sick, they're sicker. It takes them longer to recover, yada, yada, yada. And people can tell, some people are in denial, but the people who aren't in denial have told me like, oh, I so regret getting this. I've never been sicker in my life. Like I got the flu and I was in bed for 3 weeks or something, which doesn't happen. Like I've been sick a few times this year, but I get over it in 3 or 4 days, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that bad. It's really just not that bad.
People just keep signing up for it. It's blowing my mind. They keep adding new things to the childhood vaccine schedule. Now there's the RSV, the infant RSV shot that just joined the schedule this year. And Vinay Prasad has some good commentary on that shot where overall, the kids in the treatment group, the babies who got the RSV shot were actually more likely to be hospitalized and more likely to die than the kids who didn't get the RSV shot. They just weren't more likely to die. Like they were being hospitalized and dying of non-RSV reasons. So the shot was clearly hurting them, like it was making them more susceptible to other illnesses. They had higher hospitalizations and higher mortality overall in the experimental group, but fewer kids were diagnosed with RSV.
Is there actually a measles outbreak right now? Because I think that's, people keep telling me, I have never talked about the measles vaccine before because I don't know anything about it. But if I talk about the COVID vax not working, for example, or like the insane vaccine schedule, and they'll be like, oh, well, it's because of, people like you or anti-vaxxers, as if I'm an anti-vaxxer. I mean, maybe I am now, like, fine, but I haven't been ever before, really. Like, but, being like, oh, well, now there's this crazy measles outbreak. And then when I look at the statistics, I'm like, it doesn't actually look like there's a crazy measles outbreak. It looks like there's some more cases than maybe there were, I don't know, like a few years ago, but
we have a measles outbreak every like 3 to 6 years in the United States. Measles will never be eradicated from the world. Okay, we probably just are getting kicked off YouTube for this episode.
Well, now that I'm demonetized on YouTube, like whatever. And everyone go and become a paid subscriber on Substack, just in case I get completely removed here, since my channel is Canadian and Canada's trying to remove me.
So B, I am not an anti-vaxxer. I have a very expensive vaccine refrigerator that I have to pay for equipment to monitor the temperature up to make sure it's still working. I have to look at the temperature gauge every day, like it's part of being a vaccine provider. I give vaccinations on a very regular basis. I am not an anti-vaxxer. I am very critical of the current childhood vaccine schedule, and I am 100% pro-choice about all medical decisions, including vaccines. So that being said, first, yes, there is a measles outbreak. It's in West Texas and in 2 New Mexican counties that border West Texas. I think there have been around 600 cases at this point. And interestingly, there have been 2 deaths of children, which is a first in my career. Like I deal with, the measles propaganda comes around every 3 to 6 years. Every time there's a little measles outbreak in the United States, it becomes this enormous propaganda, mindfuck for the population, and everyone is suddenly afraid of measles, and people who were okay not vaccinating last week now want to get the vaccine, which is fine. People should reevaluate their decisions. So we're in a massive measles hysteria moment. It's going to die down like it always does. I don't know why the apparent morbidity and mortality has been so high this time. My suspicion is there are a whole lot more cases that we aren't being told about because people in Texas, and particularly like the homeschooling old order Mennonite community where this has been running through, don't seek to interface with the medical system or the government in any way. And there are probably thousands and thousands and thousands of cases we don't know about. The only ones getting reported are the ones walking into a medical facility.
Right. I mean, is measles dangerous?
I'm old enough to
a little bit. If a couple kids have died.
I'm old enough to kids. Measles is not particularly like age dependent. I think under 6 months, everything is more dangerous. But measles is one that kind of has the same morbidity and mortality from, once you're out of infancy until you're frail and elderly. Most people have the same kind of cases from it. I'm old enough to remember when no one was afraid of measles. I think most people have seen that old Brady Bunch episode where they get the measles. Have you seen that?
I saw a clip of it recently. Yeah. Did they show it on some podcast show? That clip, I think.
Yeah, it's a great old clip. I'm glad that they still have it. When I was a kid, I remember seeing similar like wah wah. You have the measles comedy on like the Jetsons, the Flintstones, the Brady Bunch. Like measles was not considered something to be terrified of. It wasn't like smallpox and polio. Measles does have a higher mortality rate than chickenpox. In otherwise healthy kids, you look at the data across the years, it changes, but generally it's consider that like 1 in 1,000 to 1 in 10,000 kids who get measles will die of it.
Right.
So to me, like it's still reasonable for parents to consider that acceptable mortality. 1 in 1,000 is really a pretty low rate. I say that as a home birth midwife, I'm used to people taking, attending birth. It's like 6 in 1,000 babies are going to die during birth or soon afterwards. Like I feel like almost all the time it's going to be fine. 999 out of 1,000, those are pretty good odds. But people in America hear that and they're like, oh my God, 1 in 1,000 kids who gets it is going to die. And they freak out. And then they want to force their neighbors at gunpoint to be vaccinated.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's always going to be the conflict between the people who are, for the greater good. So everybody has to do this, whether they like it or not. And that's a good thing because we're keeping everybody safe, and the people who value freedom and the risk that comes with that freedom.
And people don't acknowledge any risk to the vaccines, which is crazy. Right. I mean, just read the package insert. The measles, the MMR, the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, which is the only way to vaccinate for measles. When my kids were little, you could get just a measles shot, just a mumps shot, just a rubella shot. They were called monovalent vaccines. After the late 90s, those didn't exist anymore. The only vaccines we have for measles, the only vaccine we have is the MMR. So that vaccine is a live virus vaccine, and it does have a really high rate of reactivity. And many, many parents insist that their children were neurologically injured by that vaccine. They insist that the child was normal, developing normally, got the MMR shot and stopped talking, had regression, screamed for 18 hours, then never talked again. You can find thousands of parents telling that same story. They are all completely gaslit and told that, oh, that regression was going to happen, or it's just that kids develop autism randomly and it just happened to coincide with the measles shot. So there's the neurological injury that is not being recognized at all. Then the recognized injuries of immune thrombocytopenia, where your body just starts killing all the platelets. Like that's a life-threatening complication. That happens to 1 in 20,000 people who get the measles shot. It can kill you. It can result in you having to have your spleen removed. It's not a good thing when it happens. To not have any platelets is a really life-threatening thing. You can't clot your blood. Girls over puberty and women, up to 40% will have joint swelling and rheumatological side effects from that. Nurses see that all the time. They come through, take our titers. Everyone who's not immune to measles has to get a shot. The next week, half the nurses' joints are swollen and hurting. A certain percentage of that never goes away, and they develop rheumatoid arthritis. Like these are all acknowledged side effects. So people need to do their own cost benefit analysis on this. It's not anybody else's right to tell you which is the right set of risks for you and your family.
And if anyone, I'm sorry, but if anybody believes medical experts anymore point blank without doing their own research, they've learned nothing from this whole COVID experience.
Totally. And again, like the science changes, the medical experts change their opinion all the time. Like we are not that far from leeches and bloodletting and arsenic and mercury.
Brethren Time is asking, Mary Lou, have you heard of or read The Contagion Myth by Dr. Tom Cowan?
I have not read it. I've seen him talk about it. I love Tom Cowan and I agree with him on a lot of things, but I do believe in the germ theory. And he doesn't believe in the germ theory. And I do.
The germ theory?
The germ theory is that there are specific microbes, like tiny microscopic organisms like bacteria and viruses, that cause specific diseases. So the bacteria that we call streptococcus, causes strep throat. That's the germ theory. And that these microorganisms are contagious and can be passed. So if I have a virus that is causing bronchitis and you come hang out with me and we share a glass of wine, then you can get that virus and you might have bronchitis in a couple of weeks. So people who don't believe in the germ theory think that that's wrong. And they have this kind of, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but they believe it. And that's fine. I don't know what's true here. Tom Cowan believes that it's all about the terrain and that healthy people don't get sick. And in a way, I do believe that. I think that if you keep your immune system up, you're much more likely to fight off microbes and not get your friend's contagion. But he doesn't believe there's any such thing as specific germs that cause specific diseases. The reason I think he's wrong, I'll give you an example, is chickenpox parties and how, one kid has chickenpox and you invite the neighborhood over. We experienced this as children. And now within the next 2 weeks, all those kids have chickenpox. I know people whose kids have had chickenpox. They've had the kid wear a shirt for 24 hours straight, put the shirt in a Ziploc bag, FedEx it across the country to their sister, have their nieces and nephews wear the shirt, and they all get chickenpox. Like I believe in the germ theory.
Right.
So
this guy, this Tom Cowan, is that his name?
Tom
Does
Cowan.
not.
No, Tom Cowan doesn't believe in it. And he makes some good, he makes some good points that a lot of what we're told about science really is just theory. An example of that would be psychiatry and convincing everybody they have a serotonin deficiency and that's what's causing their bad mood, where there's literally no evidence of that. And he talks about that with some of the intracellular anatomy that is really just all theory, that we don't actually know what's going on inside the cell. Nobody's actually ever seen, he says no one's seen a Golgi apparatus, that we're just all told that these intracellular organelles exist. He's a beautiful writer. He wrote one of my favorite books, which is called, what is it called? Immunization and the Changing Nature of Childhood Illness, which is just a really beautifully written book about how we've traded acute illness for chronic illness in our children. He wrote a great book about the heart, about how the heart's not just a mechanical pump, it's spinning the blood. But I don't agree with him on the germ theory. He believes that there's no such thing as microbes that cause specific illnesses.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me. Just based on my life experience, and especially in somewhere like Sayulita, where if one person gets sick, we all get sick and we all get the same thing, because we're all around each other all the time. It's a little town. We're just interacting constantly. And, also like people here are not taking sick days.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mexicans work 6 days a week and they can't afford to stay home. So if they get sick, they're going to still go to work and work in the kitchen or the bar or wherever. Right. And, that's life. But yeah, if one person like norovirus went around when you were here last time, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do remember, because
everybody, everybody, I didn't get it, but so many people got it. I mean, it was mostly the tourists. Like I don't, people act like it's a Mexico problem, but I think that the tourists bring it. I mean, they're in the airport on the planes, and then it's, I don't know.
There was that broken...
I'm just blaming the tourists because I'm like, the tourists, we would never give each other noro.
I know, it spread through fecal contamination, and there was that broken sewage pipe.
Oh yeah, we had another one this year too. That's a pretty, but we didn't get norovirus this year though. There was a pipe broke in the ocean again a couple weeks ago, but no.
It was breathing in aerosolized sewage.
But it is contagious, right? It has to be, because you guys, everybody got it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
okay.
was so sick. Yeah.
Yeah, and you weren't even that bad. Like Ellie, my friend's kid, my friend that you met. I shouldn't be saying her name because she's a kid. She was sick for weeks. After they got back, she was still pretty sick for a long time. But yeah, or like we'll all get the same cough or the same flu or the same stomach bug. So it doesn't make sense to me that that's not because of this same specific germ that's being spread around and causing the same illness to everybody.
Well, we should read the contagion myth and so we can critique it thoroughly. But I do believe in the germ theory.
Okay. I mean, I think I do too. I only heard that term, the germ theory, for the first time from Isabella Malbin, and I didn't really understand what she was talking about. She was like, well, I don't believe in the germ theory. I was like, I've never heard of a germ theory before.
Right.
YouTube keeps rejecting my comments in the live chat, and I just am so paranoid. all I said, thank you, Ardell. I'll just say it out loud. Thank you, Ardell. But YouTube didn't like that comment. Like the Canada, I hate that I can't switch over my YouTube and my Gmail and my Google account to America, because I've switched so many things over to America because of what the Canadian government was doing. And I was like, I don't want to be attached to Canada for anything anymore, because they're going to freaking cut me off and screw me over. But yeah, YouTube and all of that, it's stuck Canadian forever. So who knows how long I'll have YouTube, but certainly not monetized at the moment. Anyway, we should talk about Russell Brand before we log off, just because I had mentioned that we would. I don't know. I mean, I don't know that there's that much to talk about. I think that the response from a lot of men is pretty aggravating. But I get it at the same time. I mean, I think that after the whole Me Too experience, where a lot of men were unfairly canceled and accused and taken down, and there were a lot of men who really had their lives destroyed for no good reason, including my friend Andy Mills, who I had on the podcast, and some I've mentioned Stephen. Oh no, I've forgotten his last name. The guy who headed up the creative writing department at UBC, who was canceled and his life was destroyed over allegations of abuse that simply never happened. And so I understand why people would leap to say, oh, Russell Brand's being targeted for political reasons. And maybe
he probably is, but he's probably also a rapist. Yeah.
I know, that's the thing, is I'm like, okay, well, maybe they are trying to take him down. But I don't know that I see Russell Brand as particularly dangerous, especially because he's pivoted to this Christianity nonsense. I'm like, I don't know. I've tried to listen to his podcast a number of times, and it's unbearable.
Yeah, he still talks like he's on speed, even though he's clean now.
It's just this rambling, same thing over and over and over and over again. And I don't understand what the draw is, really, to be honest.
I believe in innocent until proven guilty, but I will say Russell Brand sure acted like a sex perp in a lot of ways. And he has admitted to, compulsively buying the bodies of impoverished women to use them for sex. Like he was a John for a really long time. He laughs about that. He's never atoned for that to women. He's never really sat with, public. I don't think he's ever publicly condemned prostitution, or he doesn't speak of that in the same way he does with his addiction.
He doesn't talk about prostitution, and he doesn't talk about the trans issue. And somebody once said to me, because I, for a while, was like, why he's doing this brave truth teller thing. And he did tell some brave truths during COVID and in other facets. Like, I appreciated a lot of his commentary. And I was like, why won't he say anything about the gender identity thing and stand up for women and these kids who are being trans? And somebody said, oh, I think it's because he has these sexual assault allegations in his past, and he's worried that they'll be dredged up. I don't know why specifically it would be connected to not talking about that, but you're right. He doesn't talk about, does he talk about porn at all? I'm trying to remember.
He talks about having been a porn addict, and he encourages men to stop using porn. But he doesn't talk about the harms to women of porn. He talks about how it's another addiction he was as though it's just like a bag of cocaine, but not these women's bodies and lives are being destroyed by this brutal sex inflicted upon them in this industry. He doesn't seem to have any awareness of that at all. And the guy was a total misogynist creep. Like, he just acted like a proud sex pest for most of his career.
Yeah. And, and women were warned about him, Bridget Fetisi, someone just mentioned this in the comments too, but she's said this in other times and me, which, women were warned about him. To me, it sounds like the allegations are legitimate, and they were a long time ago, but it's still real. I mean, he still has to go to court, and I I just the jumping to defend him when you don't really know is probably just, it's as bad as assuming that the allegations are correct when you don't know. I mean, this is the court of public opinion. It wouldn't be okay if we were talking about actual court, but I don't know. You don't have to, like, you don't have to defend somebody if you don't know, which is what, like, Bridget tweeted. Let me just find her tweet here. Lost all my tabs. Sorry, give me one moment here. She tweeted, so Charlie Kirk tweeted, every single allegation against Russell Brand concerns event that took place 20 years ago or more. None of them existed when he was a famous actor, comedian. All of them emerged once he became a highly visible dissident on politics and COVID. That's not true. Brand has been forthright about his behavior as a young man, but the idea that he was a serial rapist is absurd and, more importantly, completely unprovable. This is a political prosecution, plain and simple. And Bridget responded and said, okay, I'm tired of this bullshit from people who were 6 years old in 1999. I was a young woman in Hollywood in the 2000s. Does he deserve due process? Yes. Is he innocent? Who knows? But you don't have to defend him. Just say nothing. You really don't know anything, Charlie.
Good for her. Yeah. And I think that a lot of high profile, famous, wealthy men, just by the reality of human nature, probably have a lot of their own questionable sexual encounters that they would prefer to stay in, out of the public eye. I think that they circle the wagons around that. It never surprises me at all to find out that any famous man is a rapist. It seems pretty par for the course. And
there are men with a lot of power who are getting a lot of attention that nobody says no to.
Yeah.
And, they're probably narcissists because a lot of people in those positions are, because they desire that kind of attention and fame and being flattered constantly and not being held accountable for anything.
You got this, Russell Brand was a coke-addled sex maniac by his own description of himself. Why wouldn't it be true? I do think there's something to men only care about rape when it's politically expedient for them or when it's their women being raped, right? Like it's, men don't get in trouble for raping down. They only get in trouble for raping up, like raping more powerful guys, women, girls, daughters, wives. I think that like the Julian Assange sexual assault allegations, that was the only thing they could get him on. And I don't think
that was real. I think that was bullshit.
I don't know.
That
I
was
have no
so
idea.
Stupid.
I mean,
I guess I don't know either, but that was obviously political.
It was clearly political. It was much more political than the Russell Brand thing. And the guy might be a rapist.
But he wasn't.
A lot of men are. They said he tore off condoms.
But that's not rape.
No, but it is. It puts your life at risk. It literally is a life-threatening act. A woman, pregnancy can kill you. STDs can kill you.
You could get an STD even if the guy was wearing a condom, and you could get pregnant if the guy was wearing a condom.
That's true. I mean, it's a real shitty thing to do. And I think that guy
should be shitty, but
I think the kind of guy who would do that is likely to also be the kind of guy who might rape someone.
But why would a man do that? Like, it doesn't seem like a real thing that a man would do. Why would a man bother to do the whole sex act with the condom on, which makes the sex less pleasant, and then take it off to come?
Oh, I meet women all the time, young women that this has happened to. Like, what? I'm constantly giving the morning after pill to
because the guy put a condom on, had sex with her, and just when he was about to come, he took the condom off and came inside her.
Yes, it's a thing guys do because there's a lot of disgusting behavior going on right now.
I did not know that this was a thing. This has never happened to me before.
It's a real thing.
Okay. I mean, I believe you, obviously.
Yeah, and it's gross. And I think it's a questionable legality.
Like, is it like, I mean, I'm trying to think of why a man would do that. And I guess when I think about why a man would do that, it is the intention is kind of rapey.
Yeah, it is. Exactly.
It's a violation.
Exactly. And I think that probably, you know, who knows? It would not surprise me at all if Julian Assange had actually done that. A lot, you know, but it was obvious that the only reason any men in authority positions of authority cared was that's the only thing they could get him on. They wanted to go after him for what he was doing with WikiLeaks, so they used the rape allegations to extradite him and make him go into hiding. With Russell Brand, I'm not sure he's as powerful as Charlie Kirk thinks he is. He comes across as like just a maniac, you know, like he can't slow his speech down. He's you know, converts are the worst. They're kind of like addicts. Like he's addicted to Christianity now, and he's still a performer. He's still obviously a narcissist. He's always performing. He can't not be performing.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's a real threat. I think that I wonder if the cops have some real evidence. Who knows? A guy like that might have filmed things. You know, he likes being on camera. He feels untouchable.
Men always do stuff like that. They can't think straight when it comes to sex.
Yeah, there might be hard evidence against him. And if there is, I think he should go to jail.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, of course, it's a crime.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it goes. Okay. Well, we should wrap up. I know it's probably getting late for you over there. Guys, next week, we're doing another advice episode because the last one was so fun. So I think we're going to try to do it monthly. So if you have questions, if you need advice about anything at all, relationships, health, love, eyeliner, submit them to me on Substack. So I put my Substack link in the show notes below, but it's www.meganmurphy.ca. And I know people think that like I'm a stupid old lady when I say www first, but it's because it doesn't, for some reason, like the link doesn't work if you just type in meganmurphy.ca. You have to type www.meganmurphy.ca for some reason. And yeah, if you become a paid subscriber, you can send me your advice, questions, and queries. I started a thread in my chat, so you can go over there and do that. I posted a link on my Patreon, so if you're on Patreon, I also put that link in the show notes down below, but it's just patreon.com/meganmurphy.com. And you can send it to me via DM there, post it in the comments. And yeah, I think those are probably the easiest ways for me to see them and for them not to get lost. As I mentioned earlier, am officially a candidate in the 2025 Canadian election in the Vancouver East riding. And if you wish to support my campaign with a donation, that would be super. The link is down below, or you can go to the peoplesparty.ca website and find my page under candidates and click the donate button. And yeah, as I mentioned, the Canadian government is targeting me, so I'm kind of demonetized here right now. So I appreciate paid subscribers on Substack and on Patreon. And Mary Lou has an excellent Substack as well. She's at Mary Lou Singleton, so go over there and subscribe. And you also have an upcoming workshop, which I would love it if you would tell us about.
Sure. I have a really exciting class that I'm teaching. It's been years in the making, and it is the Herbs of Enchanted Family Medicine, a 16-week deep dive into over 150 herbs. And we will meet online, so you can take it from anywhere in the world, literally. It'll all be recorded. If you can't make a class in person, you can watch the class later. And it starts June 3rd and goes through September 16th. We'll meet Tuesday evenings. And this week is the last week to get the the discounted early bird rate. So if you sign up before April 15th, the class is 40% off. And you can sign up for the class and read more about it on my website, enchantedfamilymedicine.com.
Awesome. And I put that link in the show notes and in the chat. And I put my donate for my fundraiser campaign in the chat. Abby asked, will you have to go back and live in Canada if you win? No, I will not, because I'm not going to win. This is an NDP riding. I'm just trying to stir things up and push back and to force some conversations that won't be had otherwise, trying to troll my old neighborhood. And yeah, I mean, part of it's a platform, it's a political strategy to get conversations going, to talk about things that otherwise wouldn't be talked about. If you're running in an election, they can't cancel you in the same way that they can cancel you normally if you're doing an event, because then they're obstructing the democracy in the electoral process. So there's sort of a different standard for that. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. But if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. And we'll be back next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. I think I've finally gotten the time zones right. Okay, great to see you, Mary Lou. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Okay.
Bye, Megan. See you next week.